This will be brief for a complex subject. I report my refraction objectively by measuring it myself. And of course, well, how do you know that? Well, I have glasses with 1 diopter lens. Previously it was 20/60 or so. So I now have glasses, 1 diopter. So I put these on and I stand back from my Snellen. I can just barely read the 20/50 line. So 1 diopter, so I'm now 1 diopter myopic again, because the plus lens makes your eye myopic, or it's the equivalent of a negative refraction. So the question is, how do I know 20/40 or 20/60 and 20/20? How can I measure that with reasonable accuracy? A phoropter costs $2,500. I don't have that kind of money, yet I want to know. So I use these dial vision lenses. They're adjustable as demonstrated and as per the literature. They have, of course, so you can see that dial, and you can dial your eye. About 1 diopter is about a quarter, 3/4 or half turn, quarter turn. But here's how you find out. So I'm sitting in the air, look at the Snellen at 20 feet. And with 1 diopter, I have 20/40. Now the question is, how do I calibrate this? They're obviously low cost, but they're pretty good in this sense. So I put them on. So reading the 20/40 line, I adjust these outside very carefully. And so with 20/40, I turn these until it clears the 20/20 line. So that is how you can accurately measure, use these glasses to calibrate these test lenses to determine several things. The minimum turn necessary to change 20/50 to 20/20, very valuable. Then I take the glasses off, and since I have 20/20, I again turn the dials back to 20/20. So the difference between being 1 diopter myopic, as per these plus lenses, and turning the dial is the calibration of these relatively low cost test lenses. Now, that's a very brief description of, which is obviously a method. You could accurately measure your changing your refractive state from minus 1 diopter or 20/40 to 0 diopters or 20/20. It takes experience, education, understanding, and of course it'll probably take about a year and a half to go from 20/40 to 20/20. And you're really interested in getting your refractive state to measure slightly positive, which is how you have 20/20, a positive refractive state, everything reasonable, and that's 20/20. My refractive state is slightly positive, probably quarter diopters plus a quarter diopter. So here is the lens. I think they're probably about $30 by now, $30. And there is the adjustment part. They provide you with a Snellen. Okay. And some more detailed instructions. Of course, to be really good at it takes time. And most people use them as an emergency, as I would use them. In other words, if my glasses are broken, I can't go to an optometrist, and I need something, then I could use these. I mean, it's good that way. And of course, I use them calibrated to estimate my refraction, whether it's positive by plus a half diopter or negative by minus 1 diopter, as the plus 1 diopter may be myopic by that amount. The reason I do this measurement is exactly this. A refractive state of minus 1 diopter is not medical. It's a positive and negative refractive state of the fundamental eye that controls its refractive state to the average of accommodation. So the reason I do this test is to make sure that mild nearsightedness, that I can get 20/20 with this lens, because if I can't get it, then I probably have a medical problem, and this sends you immediately to an ophthalmologist to determine why you can't get 20/20 from this type of lens. The range is, it will measure between -6 and +3 diopters, as the advertisement says. So I'm an engineer, and most engineers, you show them something like this, and that'll challenge them. And they'll say, oh, Odie's got it wrong, he doesn't know, and so forth, so forth. And that's how they learn. It pushes them to ask questions. It pushes them to do it themselves. And that's the real heart of engineering and scientific learning. You say, well, he's wrong, and I'll show you how to do it better. I can do better. Give me those lenses and let me do it. And I'll prove you wrong, or I'll understand how you can use these experimental glasses to determine your refraction yourself. And I support that. But recovery from -1 diopter is extremely slow. And people who figure out how to do it need to have a better knowledge of what they're doing and why they're doing it. The ultimate goal, and in my mind, measurement control. And measurement control means doing what I'm doing. And it's very slow. Obviously you can't prescribe this. A person must have the engineering ability to understand it. What is goal? Can I get to that goal? And what I do, what is necessary to get the goal to go from 20/40 to 20/20. But along the way, learn how to understand how the eye behaves experimentally and by analysis, which is what I do. I don't fight with optometrists. They have an impossible situation. The public walking off the street is ignorant and wants immediate sharp vision, and you only get it from minus lens. And conversations at that level cannot exist. So this is in response to my friends who asked this question. And it's clearly academic engineering, how we do things, how a good engineer could measure his own refractive state, assuming you wanted to go from -1 diopter to 0 diopters as part of a team, scientific team, engineering team. Then you turn responsibility over to him, and he makes the measurements and either does it correctly or does not. And that's, in my mind, what scientific research should always be about, where you trust the person who's properly prepared for it and prepared to do it. Hope you enjoy this one. If you have questions, feel free to ask them. I might be wrong, by all means. But that's challenge, think for yourself. What are you thinking? What are you doing? What do you want in your life? Clearly, prevention is a lifetime job, not something you do overnight or in a couple of months. Thanks for your interest.